War is rarely introduced as a financial decision. It is framed as defense, as necessity, as an unavoidable response to external threat. But before the first soldier moves, before the first missile launches, before a single border is crossed, a quieter decision is made. A decision that determines how long a war can last, how far it can spread, and how deeply it will reshape the lives of people who may never see the battlefield. Because wars are not sustained by courage alone, they are sustained by money. Every major conflict in modern history begins with the same problem. It is too expensive. No country, regardless of power, size, or influence, enters a large-scale war with excess money sitting idle, waiting to be spent on destruction. Wars are not prepaid, they are financed, and financing changes the nature of war itself. In 1914, Europe did not have the money to fight a global war. In 1939, neither did anyone else. In the 21st century, the situation has not changed. What has changed is the scale. Modern wars consume resources at a rate that would collapse national budgets within months if paid for directly. So governments do not pay outright, they borrow. Borrowing is the foundation of modern warfare. It is the invisible weapon that allows conflict to continue long after logic suggests it should stop. When governments decide to fight, they issue debt, not because it is ideal, but because it is the only option that keeps systems functioning. Debt postpones pain. War bonds, treasury bonds, long-term government securities, different names, same function. They are promises to pay later for destruction today. And they are sold not only to institutions, but to citizens. Patriotism becomes an investment. This system creates a powerful illusion. As long as money can be borrowed, war appears affordable. Budgets expand, deficits widen, but daily life continues, at first. Early war spending rarely feels catastrophic. Interest rates are low, markets remain calm, confidence is managed. Political leaders reassure the public that the cost is temporary, controlled, necessary. But war does not respect projections. Wars stretch timelines. They introduce uncertainty into systems that depend on predictability. Fuel costs rise unexpectedly. Supply routes are disrupted. Replacement costs compound. What was once an estimate becomes a moving target. As expenses grow, governments face a second problem. Borrowing has limits. At some point, markets demand higher interest. Debt becomes politically uncomfortable. Public scrutiny increases. So another tool is activated: money creation. Central banks rarely describe this as printing money. It is framed as liquidity support, as economic stabilization, as emergency intervention. But the effect is the same. The money supply expands. This expansion does not feel like taxation. There is no bill in the mail, no direct deduction from wages. Instead, value erodes slowly. Prices rise, purchasing power weakens, savings lose strength. This is how war costs are distributed quietly. Inflation is not an accident of war. It is a consequence of how war is funded. The more prolonged the conflict, the more pressure is placed on currency stability. And that pressure does not stay contained. Food prices rise first, then energy, then housing. Daily life begins to absorb decisions made far away by institutions most people never see. The battlefield may be distant, the cost is not. At the same time, national priorities shift. Military spending expands rapidly, civilian budgets are adjusted quietly. Infrastructure projects are delayed, social programs shrink, emergency powers normalize. War changes what governments consider essential. Industry responds accordingly. Factories do not simply shut down, they adapt. Civilian production declines, military production accelerates. Destruction becomes demand. And demand attracts capital.
This is the moment when war becomes more than a political decision. It becomes an economic system, one that rewards continuation, penalizes restraint, and resists reversal. Once war becomes an economic system, its most critical vulnerability is no longer morale or ideology, it is logistics. Logistics determine how long a war can continue, not how intensely it begins. Every vehicle, every shipment, every kilometer traveled converts directly into cost, and cost determines survival. Modern militaries do not move without supply chains: fuel, food, ammunition, medical equipment, replacement parts. Each item has a price, each delivery has a delay, each delay increases expense. War transforms geography into a spreadsheet. Distance becomes expensive. The farther a conflict is from a nation's industrial core, the more money it consumes simply to exist. Fuel costs rise unexpectedly. Infrastructure strain increases. Risk multiplies. Time becomes currency. As wars extend, logistics become more complex. Routes must be secured. Storage must expand. Losses must be replaced. Nothing is static, and nothing is cheap. Supply chains behave like financial arteries. When they flow smoothly, war continues unnoticed. When they constrict, pressure builds instantly. Shortages do not announce themselves politely. They appear as crises. Fuel shortages ground vehicles. Ammunition shortages slow operations. Equipment shortages force strategic compromises. Each constraint increases spending elsewhere. There is no savings mode in war. At this stage, governments face a dangerous realization. The war is no longer being funded by strategy. It is being funded by inertia. Stopping becomes more disruptive than continuing. This is when economic warfare intensifies. Sanctions are imposed, trade routes are restricted, assets are frozen. The battlefield expands into global markets. Sanctions are often presented as alternatives to violence, but they are not neutral tools. They weaponize currency, access, and trust. They aim to destabilize economies rather than armies. Currency markets react immediately. Exchange rates fluctuate, capital retreats, confidence erodes. A weakened currency makes imports more expensive, including the materials needed to sustain war. This creates a paradox. The very tools used to pressure an adversary also increase the cost of fighting for everyone involved. Economic warfare rarely produces clean winners. As currencies weaken, inflation accelerates, not because goods disappear, but because money loses clarity. Prices become signals of uncertainty. Inflation reshapes public behavior. Spending increases as people rush to convert money into assets. Saving declines. Trust in institutions weakens. These changes persist long after the war. Governments respond predictably. They intervene. Price controls, subsidies, emergency measures. Each intervention stabilizes one problem while creating another. At the same time, defense industries expand. Production lines run continuously. Contracts grow longer. Employment stabilizes. War becomes a source of economic certainty inside broader instability. This stability has consequences. Entire regions become dependent on military spending. Reducing war budgets now risks unemployment, political backlash, and economic contraction. Peace becomes economically disruptive. War does not distribute economic impact evenly. While households absorb rising prices and shrinking purchasing power, other entities experience something very different: stability. In an unstable world, predictability becomes valuable, and few sectors are more predictable during war than defense. Defense contracts are long-term by design. They extend beyond election cycles, beyond public attention, beyond the war itself. Once signed, they are difficult to reverse without legal and financial penalties. This is not corruption, it is structure. Corporations respond to incentives. Governments respond to pressure. Systems respond to momentum. War creates a convergence of all three. Banks play a quieter role. They do not build weapons. They do not deploy troops. They finance duration, loans, credit facilities, debt restructuring. War transforms uncertainty into structured financial products. Risk is redistributed. Private entities are protected through guarantees. Public institutions absorb volatility. Citizens carry inflation. Losses are socialized. Returns are isolated. As conflict continues, financial complexity increases. Emergency budgets become permanent allocations. Temporary measures lose their expiration dates. Oversight weakens under urgency. Exceptional becomes normal. This normalization is one of war's most durable effects. Even after fighting slows, financial structures remain.